Let's first understand how brain works in the first place. Your brain isn't that fixed organ that cannot be changed. It's an adaptable organ that changes exactly like any other muscle on your body. Like when you lift a weight, for example, you strengthen your arms. The more you use it, the stronger and more flexible it becomes. Unlike your arms muscles, remember that your brain is the most important organ in your body. Everything we do, think and feel is governed by how our brain cells or neurons connect to one another. And what connects them are neurotransmitters. There are many different kinds of neurotransmitters in your brain, but the ones we'll focus on in this video are dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. I know that it sounds a little more complicated already, but I promise that I will simplify it as much as possible. The first one is dopamine, a neurotransmitter that's responsible for your motivation. It seeks and searches for a reward to keep you motivated. It provides you with the motivation to do things. If you ever wanted to buy something, learn or win, it's all because of the dopamine. It searches for a potential reward that you might get out of it, which drives you to do that thing so that you can get that reward. In other words, the reason you are unmotivated is because your dopamine level is low. In fact, researchers tried to experiment and turn off the dopamine receptor in the brain of a rat, and the results were astonishing. The rat became so lazy that it chose to starve to death and didn't move to eat the food even when it was in the cage, because it was no longer motivated. And human brains work in the same way. Your dopamine level determines your level of motivation. And the good news is that studies have proved that exercise instantly and significantly boosts your dopamine level, which means that it will instantly make you feel motivated. If you're wondering how long should you exercise to get that dopamine boost, we'll talk about that in a moment. The second neurotransmitter is serotonin. It's basically the policeman of your brain. It influences your mood, anger, and aggressiveness and helps to keep your brain activity under control. In other words, if you feel anxious and depressed or stressed out, that's probably because your serotonin level is low. And that's why all of the antidepressant pills are focused on increasing your serotonin level, because that's what will get you out of depression and reduces your stress. And guess what again? Studies have shown that exercise have direct influence on your serotonin level, which means that the best cure to depression is to simply exercise. Now, the last neurotransmitter is norepinephrine. It's responsible for your attention. If you're struggling to stay focused, that's more likely because your norepinephrine is low. It works like the other two neurotransmitters we talked about. High levels of it sharpens your attention, and low levels of it makes it hard to focus. Almost all of the drugs affects these neurotransmitters. Cocaine, for example, increases your dopamine level, therefore it makes you feel really great. Imagine if you could increase all of these neurotransmitters at the same time without any drug. That's exactly what exercise is for. That's why the author of the book calls it the magic pill. But that's not the whole story, there is something else. Exercise also boosts your memory and learning abilities, and that's because of the protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF in short. Studies have shown that the part of your brain that's responsible for memory and learning has BDNF. The great part of it is that BDNF gets unleashed when our blood is pumping. It grows your brain cells and increases your learning capacity. In other words, exercise can directly improve your memory. Imagine how your day would be if you could boost your motivation, mood, and attention instantly every single morning, and increase your memory and learning capacity on the top of that. Well, all what you need to do is to start your day with an exercise. But how many hours do you really need to exercise? According to the author of the book, 6 hours in a week is enough. That can keep your neurotransmitters high throughout the day. But it's way much better if you exercise right before studying or working, because at that moment, your neurotransmitters are at the highest level and BDNF is just unleashed. That's why you feel energetic, motivated, and inspired after a morning jog. So right before you start working on that project, do yourself a favor and exercise for around 5 to 10 minutes.
Imagine you're offered to give up 30 minutes of your morning time in exchange for a free magic pill. The pill improves your learning capability, reduces your anxiety and stress, improves your mood and motivation, and generally it makes you a better version of yourself for the rest of the day. So, would you take that offer? Well, what I just described is the reason why you should exercise. When you think of exercising, the first thing that comes to your mind are the benefits, or maybe losing weight or having a healthier heart. But the real benefits of exercise happen in the brain. So what is the brain for anyway? You may think it's about solving math problems or creating a new smartphone app that will make you a millionaire. But neuroscientist Daniel Wolpert says that our brain is for one thing only: to produce adaptable and complex movement. That's it. The koala is a great example. In the past, it had a much bigger brain, but once it adapted its digestive system to derive all the energy it needs from eucalyptus leaves, it didn't have to move as much. Less movement meant less brain activity, and its brain shrunk. Studies have shown that there is a very powerful connection between the brain and movement. A big brain is needed to facilitate complex movements, and executing such movements and getting your heart rate up enhances your brain power. Exercise has been shown to help people better deal with stress and anxiety, improve mood, focus, and motivation. A 2007 study has shown that exercise also primes the brain to learn faster. Subjects who did high-intensity training beforehand were able to learn vocabulary 20% faster than those who remained sedentary. This phenomenon is due to a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF for short. BDNF helps to support the survival of existing neurons and encourages the growth and differentiation of new neurons and synapses. In the brain, it is active in the hippocampus, cortex, and the basal forebrain, areas vital to learning, memory, and higher thinking. A 2013 study showed that only 20 to 40 minutes of aerobic exercise increased the BDNF in the blood by around 32%. So the reason why exercise is a key trigger for all kinds of positive effects in the brain, particularly learning, is because movement signals to the brain that something important is happening. Maybe not in modern times, but in the past, the reason to move was for the sake of survival. You move to escape a predator, to find a shelter, hunt for food, etc. And while moving, it's in your best interest to remember the lay of the land, so don't get lost and you can locate forageable food again. When attacked by a predator, you better remember which path was most efficient to escape, so you can prevent yourself from becoming a tiger's meal the next time. When you are sitting on your couch watching television, you signal your brain that nothing important is happening and it's time for rest. Exercise also affects the areas of the brain responsible for motivation and action. The reward center is one of the most important areas in the brain. Dopamine is a key player in the reward system. From evolutionary perspective, dopamine is released when we expect some kind of reward. It makes us want to do stuff and reassures us that the thing we did was worth doing. So if your reward system is not working properly, you might have a hard time to get things done. If your brain doesn't expect a reward and fulfillment from something, it won't justify doing it. There are pills that can help with this, but you don't have to buy any kind of drugs to get your reward system going. Studies show that exercise boosts motivation by increasing dopamine storage and increasing the creation of dopamine receptors in the brain. It might not make you stay up all night in a studying frenzy like Adderall, but it will give you more willpower and focus to do those little things that don't usually feel rewarding. But even though your reward center might be working just fine, you are feeling great, and you are satisfied with your ability to learn, you can still improve all of these areas. When you exercise, you might not feel a drastic change all of a sudden, but later on, you will look back and notice the difference in learning speed, mood, focus, and you will get more things done. Now that you